Yeah.
Sorry. I have approximately 15 questions to ask you. So,
Yeah.
first, Affinity feels both intimate and explosive. How did you find the balance between a personal love story and a large-scale action spectacle?
I think most of it is really just making sure that there's something about the characters that the audience relates to, that you can look them in the eye and see them as this could be somebody I know. And as long as you do that, hopefully, if everyone executes it properly, then the audience will feel as if they are Marko Zaror, even
Yeah.
if they aren't 6'2" martial artists from Chile.
You have directed action films before, but this film, the narrative leans heavily on past traumatic stress disorder. What do
Yeah.
you to explore the psychological layer?
Um, with this, it was Marco and I spent a lot of time together going over things for months before we shot the movie. And he had had this story for a number of years, I think 7 years when we shot it. So we really, him as producer and me as director, were able to really plot out everything and work on his character really for months so that he's someone who has he's accepted this his post-traumatic stress, but he hasn't moved on from it yet. So this story is about him finding a way to move on.
Marko Zaror finally takes center stage here as a leading man. What convinced you he was the right actor to carry the story?
Well, he came with the
Mhm.
script, so it was something that already existed when I came on. I came on about close to 2.5, 3 years ago, and but I wouldn't, even if this was something that came to me, he still would have been a good choice for it because there's some guys working in the action space. There's him, Scott Adkins, and a few others who really care, not just about performing the moves properly, but they really care about reaching their audience and doing better in every movie. And Marco is someone who, thanks to the opportunities he's had in John Wick Chapter 4 and Killer's Game and other movies, he's been able um, to start to peak. So hopefully he continues. Hopefully this will show him in a more vulnerable light than people are used to seeing him.
Marko Zaror is here as a producer and choreographer on this film. How did this dual role shape your directing process?
We were really able to work together as a team, like I said,
Mhm.
for months and months. Even when he was shooting Killer's Game, we were still on a Zoom call for an hour or two every day. Occasionally, we would have a guest. Daniel Bernhardt joined
Yeah.
one of our Zooms once, so that was fun. Um, but it was great because we understood we had the same goal for the story,
Mhm.
which is really the best thing you can have in a partnership in a movie.
This film was born from an idea developed with the late Daniel Zerilli. Did honoring his vision influence the way you approach the project?
Um, I just wanted to make sure that the movie was something that everyone involved, whether it was current or not, would have been proud of. And
Thailand,
hopefully Daniel would have been proud of it.
sorry.
It's
Thailand's
okay.
landscapes are stunning on screen. How did the environment inform your visual storytelling?
So I've done a number of movies in Thailand, but often I shoot them in Thailand, but they're set somewhere else. I even did one that we shot in Thailand that takes place in Louisiana. So this was the first time I got to actually show Bangkok as it is now.
Yes.
And I love doing that because Bangkok has sort of a Blade Runner futuristic
Mm-mm.
vibe to it that I don't think you see on screen a lot. I mean, even the new Alien TV series shot there, but the only time you see a city is it's a CGI thing. So I love being able to show the grit to it, whether it's the flashier parts or the more downtrodden parts of the city. It just to me, it's almost another character in the movie.
The fight sequences escalate in style and intensity. Was there any action set piece that proved the most difficult to capture?
I wouldn't say they were difficult. It was more that we wanted to make each fight feel we didn't want to repeat ourselves with each one. I have a certain style that I like to use for drama and action. And it's like it's kind of a combination of a lot of influences, whether it's Asian or like Tony Scott or someone. But we wanted to make sure that the fights had different styles, different fighting styles, and to a degree, slightly different um, camera styles, but still very much fitting in the world and in the style that the movie's executed in. There's kind of a little kind of an anime feel throughout the entire thing as well. I'd like to think.
The romance between Bruno and Athena anchors the film emotionally. How do you work with Marko Zaror and Jane Miro to avoid cliché and keep their relation authentic?
I'd say the main thing is to make sure that they focused on the emotion and on the story and the character, not necessarily the lines themselves. I think a lot of actors get wrapped up in how many lines of dialogue they have or what the words are or hitting every single word, when really it's about conveying the meaning as opposed to every single syllable. Because if you don't have the meaning, then those words are meaningless.
Brooke Hens and Luis Mandela bring real texture to their supporting roles. What did you want these characters to add beyond muscle and backup?
I just wanted them to feel like a family.
Mhm.
Lewis is someone who I've known for about 2 decades, and I've had him in a number of films. So I'm never going to say no to having him on something. Brooke, I had just met when we landed in Thailand, but we hit it off instantly. And I think each of them and Marko all come from kind of different worlds and different backgrounds. So it was a great meeting of just really it expands the worldliness of the piece, because had they not served together in the military, or I think in the story, Marko's father served with Lewis. Would these people have met? I don't know, but they have each other, and that's what matters.
Editing was handled by Ernesto Díaz Espinoza, who has the history of Marko Zaror. How did this sensibility affect the film's rate and intensity?
Well, he's one of the few editors that I didn't complain about constantly. He has a great sense of style. He understands action. I didn't have to hold his hand through it because he and Marko grew up together, and had a similar upbringing to me, where this is all we wanted to do. So we've studied it our entire lives. Sometimes you don't have the tools to do it exactly as you want to, but you get better and hopefully make more movies. So it was really like having another me.
You have often been praised for making the most and modest budget. What specific tricks or choice help Affinity looks bigger than it cost?
A lot of it is hiring the right people, the right director of photography. This director of photography, Nico, has shot multiple films for me. He shot films Lewis has made. He shot Prisoner of War with Lewis and Scott that just came out. He shot Diablo, that Ernesto and Marko did. So he's really kind of a voice inside my head. Like, he can read my thoughts. I don't need to over explain what I want or what style I need to employ, because he just understands it. He's like, I think on one of the sets we had, he was called the Roger Deakins of action movies, because he's great at lighting and framing, and he adapts. And aside from just Nico, the crew in Thailand, every crew I've had is really just amazing, and they have a great work ethic and are incredibly creative. So it's really the right, like I said, it's the right team to make the most of what you have.
The film introduced a sci-fi twist with genetic modification. How did you balance that genre element with grounded military-driven action?
So my idea, and I told Marko this early on, and he agreed with me, is this movie could be set very slightly in the future, like not 20 years, not 10, not even 5. It could be next year. So, but it's unspecified. So, uh, you see some of the advances in genetic research and stuff that are going on. And one of the reasons that this was a passion project of Marko's is because he wanted to explore those themes and how it relates to, like natural humans and so on. So I think it's really coming out at a right time where some of the themes presented in the movie are possibly realities. So even though it's an action movie, and even though it's fairly straightforward, hopefully there's still a little bit that will make people think too.
The final showdown between Zaror and Brahim Shab is already being talked about. How did you approach filming that duel to make it unforgettable?
Well, Brahim lives in France. Is he there with you?
Yeah.
Um, Brahim is someone who I spoke to years ago about a movie and a video game franchise that I
Mhm.
ended up not doing one of. Um, so and we didn't realize that when we met again. We're like, oh yeah, we had this conversation years ago. Um, so Brahim and Marko have a history from working on Fight or Flight and other films,
Mhm.
and that particular fight. Um, it was shot primarily in Steadicam, all long takes, so you see everything. The Steadicam operator, I believe, is the same guy who shot the three Ong Bak movies, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he has a history of with Tony Jaa. So it was really a matter of escalation. Like I said earlier, the fights are all different. So we begin in the past in the Middle East. We continue into the alley. That's one form. We skip ahead to, let's say, the shootout in the restaurant and other things. So we're building to this like showdown between two titans, for lack of better words, with Marko and Brahim. And we I feel like it worked. I feel like we were able to get the audience to a place where they're ready for that fight, and it's just like a release when it happens and they watch it. Sorry, I have a daughter
Yeah.
who's stepping in.
Nice. Well, hi. Today,
Oh, hi.
today blockbusters are stretched past 2 hours, but Affinity is tight and lean. What was the consciousness and deliberate choice for the start?
You know, any story should really just be as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
You don't need to. A lot of movies will be long because, oh, every Marvel movie should be over 2 hours, or short because you need more people to get more screenings. But
Yes.
really, it should be as long as it needs to properly tell the story. So could there have been a version of this that was 2.5 hours? Sure, but it would
Yeah.
have gone more into maybe the backstory with the villain and such. But the point of view of the movie is through the Bruno character's eyes.
Yeah.
So anything beyond that, we the audience are experiencing with him. So beyond that, it may have been too much, and it would have been a different movie.
And my last
By the way,
question.
my daughter is one of the clones in the movie, by the way. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
And my,
um,
and my last question. Looking back at your career so far, from the flood and battle, from Serpent to Affinity, do you see this as a turning point in how you want to tell stories moving forward?
yes, I'd like to continue to integrate this type of action with these type of stories. I love science fiction. Grew up with it, you'd say. I love things like Philip K. Dick, like Total Recall and
Yeah.
Blade Runner and Minority Report, stories like that. I would love to do a movie that has this type of action with these type
Mhm.
of performers. That is a type of story, sorry, as the that is the same type of story as something like Minority Report. I think that would be really unique and really, really special. Are you being interviewed?
Yeah. Hi.
Say hi. Hi. Okay.
Hi. Thank you so
She
much.
waved with the other hand. um,
Yeah.
the flood was a kind of a sidestep because that's more similar to some of the horror movies I've done in the past.
Yeah.
So Saipan and Affinity and one called Breakout I did recently and such are really hopefully stepping stones to get to that goal.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Have a good day. Bye bye.